All right, we got a podcast, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Ian, we have an update to the
Update.
from Polymega themselves. Polymagi, to the upcoming, way delayed, late modular emulation-based retro console.
August 2nd, 2021 for immediate release. Polymega is launching officially on September 12th. I don't know what launch date number this is for them, but it's coming out. They had apparently suffered many delays due to civil unrest in Myanmar and problems with COVID. We've talked about this before. I don't really feel like shitting on them anymore. I will just say that I found that their communication method, their communication to be severely lacking, and most people did too. On the other hand, I think they realized that they had maybe they had done so much talking and so much saying this month, next month, a couple months, that I do think there is something to be said about just not saying anything until you have something to say, which is what they did. They came out of nowhere and they were like, all right, we've got a bunch of these we got our first shipment in the warehouse and we're going to be sending them out soon. I don't think that's a good thing to do for most businesses, but after the amount of talking that Polymega did, I don't think there was much more that they could say. Well, either way, I don't think the whole thing has looked like a mess.
When you say the amount of talking they did, they haven't talked in like a year and a half. What do you mean?
Well, because they kept delaying it. So I think by waiting until they had something in their hands, it made sense. I'm not saying I'm not saying anything looks good. I think you're taking this as too much of a compliment. But they've announced it and it's getting released. And if you care, yay.
As a reminder,
you'll be getting it.
This was supposed to come out in 2019 somewhere.
2019. It was announced initially in 2016, I think.
I saw the prototype at SoCal Retro Gaming Expo. That was like Super Bowl weekend 2017. February 4.5 years ago, I saw the prototype.
And it was originally supposed to be called Retro Blocks, right?
It was Retro Blocks back then. Then there was some trademark thing. They had to change it to Polymega. But this has been in development for probably over half a decade at this point.
When this was announced, I wanted to see pricing and stuff like that. But when it was announced, it was originally supposed to be an extremely accurate modular HDMI compatible solution for basically modern gaming or retro gaming on modern TVs.
Yeah, it started off as this might be like an FPGA thing. And people were like, oh, this would be interesting.
As time went on, it changed its name, and the basic idea behind it changed too. There was I think kind of laughable announcement that they were using hybrid emulation.
So a lot of the first ire came right when they were announcing when the pre-orders were happening. They said, oh, this isn't FPGA, this is hybrid emulation. So they claimed that it was going to be like some sort of FPGA thing for like how the controller input got to the emulator, but there were still emulators there. So people were thrown for a loop at that point. They're like, wait a minute, this is what you were talking up.
People felt like they weren't being sold they weren't being sold what was advertised initially. And they also got into some heat with, there was a little back and forth between them and Analog. And I like Analog's products. I don't always love how Analog's always done everything, but Analog, at least, even at that point in time, already had a history of releasing a couple of items. I think the NT Mini had been out, and I think maybe even the SNES, the SG.
At that point, the Super NT. And the Mega SG was on the way, because Mega SG's already been out for over 2 years at this point.
Yeah.
It had to do with, I think they were like, they took a little shot at Analog because like I think it was like the 32X CD games on the Mega SG weren't all compatible or something. There was like something that was not something like that. There was like a handful of games that weren't going to be working on the Mega SG. That's how I know the timing of that. And they're like, well, but it's FPGA though, it's not emulation. So like why would you don't take a shot at a competitor who has shipped products out? Like there's no reason to do that.
Yeah, they lashed out because people were angry at them suddenly changing the basic concept of what the system was from FPGA to emulation.
Yeah.
Once you've got emulation in there, there's no it's not hybrid emulation, it's emulation.
Analog's the gold standard. You may not, I know some people don't like it for some weird reason. Analog's the gold standard with these consoles now. They are. For the aftermarket way to play original physical media, they are the gold standard.
Problematically, anyways, this started out as a pretty interesting idea at the very least.
When I saw it in person, I talked to the guys. They were nice. And I was like, yeah, because we always talked about we need a CD. And that was the CD. Remember the CD? They tried to do that. We need a CD-based system to replay the CD games, because there wasn't one for PlayStation, for Sega CD, for PC Engine CD, for Saturn. We need something to play these. They don't exist. There's no Hyperkin version. There's no Retrobit version. So on that alone, I was interested.
Well, in addition to that, at that point in time, there weren't really any HDMI out options either. Directly, the at least cheaply affordable ones. The Hyperkin Retro series did not come out until after the Polymega Retro Blocks was announced. So all I'm trying to say is when they announced this, they were a fairly unique item in the market. As time has gone on, they have lost that uniqueness. Yeah. Now Hyperkin has, cheap HDMI out options that, that are cheaper than the modules. The modules alone, you need the base system, but the modules alone for the Polymega are expensive. So you have the options through Hyperkin. You have more options now through Analog.
Well, the first was Pound Cable. Pound cables came out. And we're just like, okay, you have your own consoles. Here's an HDMI upscale cable, and they're inexpensive. They're like $20 or $30, and they came out with, original Xbox. They came out with I think Dreamcast and PS1.
Pound cables are not well loved, but yeah.
Well, there's been improvements. They've been out for years now. I'm looking at the PS2 one has 4.5 stars on Amazon. So the point is they led the way. Hyperkin then did their cables. Other methods came in to start filling in these gaps.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because back when Polymega announced what they were doing, the only options were fairly high-end upscalers, like the FrameMeister.
Sure.
Now you've got your RetroTinks at 100. You've got all these different hookup cables for the Sega Genesis, for the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo. All I'm getting at is the market is not where it was when this was announced. The market is now flooded with opportunities to play your old systems via HDMI.
Yeah, I think people are satisfied with the Pound cables now. Looking at the ratings, by the way, I'm just looking at them. I mean, we're talking about three and a half years after they first came out, so there's been improvements, obviously. So the point is this: at the start, there wasn't a good solution at the time to use your original physical media to play these games outside of like the Retron 5, where you had like a multiple console setup. There wasn't a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, the Retron 5 was the first of the Retron systems to do the HDMI out.
And that was what, early 2017?
Probably.
Was it
maybe even 2016.
Yeah, I was still in Castle Country. That's how I know. I did the review. 2016 or early 2017, something like that. So a lot happened in 4 years. And now when you have multiple delays, it's like, okay, I can understand the delays once you get to the pandemic, but it was supposed to come out before the pandemic.
Right.
It was supposed to come out 2 years, a year and a half before the pandemic basically hit. So you basically caused your own separate issue there. Then the cost went up as well, and that annoyed people. So the base unit, I always said the base unit, I might have been in for like a couple $100 for just for the disc games. I didn't need the modules necessarily.
Sure.
You were going to sell me on getting every $60 or $80 module.
But I believe it ended up being over $400 for the final for the disc-based, the final price for the disc-based module.
And it was $300 originally, right? It was $300.
I think it was originally supposed to be $300, and then it got up to $400, and now I think it's slightly more.
So, I'm trying to find the store on their website. Can I even order it right now? Shop.
I think you might be able to order it, but that's the other thing that this announcement doesn't.
It's $449 now.
Yeah.
So it's gone up, pat math, 50% from the original price of $300. That's a 50% increase. Wow. $449. What happened with this project? There's a lot of probably a lot of turnover behind the scenes, I'm guessing, in terms of devs. I don't know if they misuse money. I can't say that, but like when you have a 50% increase in your price of your production. That's massive.
I just wonder maybe if some bloat occurred. The operating system looks nice, but it also looks almost overdone.
But
maybe like I'm just wondering, did development costs for the software end up getting so bloated that they had to charge more for the hardware?
the most part, though, it's a front end, right? It's front end.
Yes, it's a front end.
Those exist. Our pals at Launchbox, emulator front ends, they exist. They're probably not complicated to at least license one or alter one. That's sticker shock. At $449, this is dead in the water. I mean, it's dead. I don't see anyone, and that because you have to be on. Remember, you have to be on board for the base unit, and then the modules on top of that.
I believe if you want to check,
I'm checking right now.
I believe the modules are 80,
and then they originally were 60. Originally the modules, and they came with the controller. They're $80 now.
So this is what I'm getting at. If this isn't FPGA, and your desire is to play NES games, this is it's a tall order at $449 for the base model plus 80 for the.
This is then $770 to get all 4 modules, the base unit. And then there's going to be shipping and tax. You're going to look at like $850 to $900.
Yes,
that's insane.
When if all you wanted, like I said, if you wanted to just do some NES games, the standalone Hyperkin Retron HD, which plenty of people hate and plenty of people love, but whatever, that exists for someone. There's a market for it, believe me. $39.99. So even their modules aren't particular. They're expensive. What I'm saying is, you can get all other than the disc.
You can buy separate systems.
You can do separate systems that are going to do
modules.
this. Yeah, they're less than the modules.
I mean, the modules are pass-throughs. The modules are basically just.
You can get a Retron
board readers.
You can get a Retron 3 HD doing Super, Regular, and Genesis for $90. The modules are crazy overpriced.
The modules are just a board reader for that console, the same way the Retron 5 had multiple board readers for several consoles, and the controller port pass-through. That's all you're doing with these modules. So it's a shame. I'm not wishing ill will on this, because I think some people were excited about this. But once you get years into a project like this, the technology passes you by. Other cheaper options come out. We have so many even mod options that are available. We talk about the Saturn, you and things like that, where you
got the optical drive emulators now.
Yeah, there's so many
the
other
market
solutions.
has changed, and yes, I've not always been kind to Polymega for a lot of the reasons. I don't think their communication was great, etc. But I do think there was a market for this at one point, and the technology has past it, and the price point. It just
you can't have technology pass you by, cheaper options, and then we're going to raise the price 50% on the base unit, not like 20%, 25%, 50%. Like you say, oh well, the Playdate increased their price. Yeah, they increased their price by like, I don't know, 10%. I think
they increased it from 150 to 179, but they didn't increase it with nothing. They added 12 more games. They added 12 more games.
But even, I would say 30 divided by 150. That's a 20% increase. That's not 50%. And you're getting more stuff. So
it's not just an increase with nothing added.
So we're not going to kill you, because yes, there's a pandemic, parts are harder to get, or they're more money. You can get parts, by the way. Other companies will claim you can get the parts you want. You have to just pay a little bit more for them. That's why, these products are still coming out. That's why you're still going to get the Playdate. That's why you're getting the the Analog Pocket. You can still get this stuff made, for the most part. But this is just like it's sort of like a what if. It's gonna become like a what if. Like, what if this did come out say early 2019 or whenever it was supposed to come out originally? Because I can't even keep track anymore when this was supposed to come out. I mean, probably originally they wanted this thing out in 2018. If I was looking at a prototype with the real shell in 2017. This has been developed probably a year before that. Once you get to 5 years when a product's not out, my God. I mean, for hardware.
So I think that this is. I'd be surprised if they continue going after this is launched. I have a feeling they're going to get those units out into people's hands. They've said that some people aren't going to get their units until 2022. But can they maintain enough product to actually run this as a business after it launches? And that's my question.
This is what from the press release that came out via Nintendojo, which I love that name. Playmage IC Brian Bernal said, despite the challenging shipping environment presented by the COVID-19 pandemic starting last year and other factors beyond our control at our Myanmar assembly facility, our team is excited to finally reach this critical release milestone. And further, we're beyond grateful to our thousands of customers who stuck with us and believe in the vision of Polymega and what it can mean for the future of the video games industry. Okay. The vision of the Polymega, I don't even know what the vision is. Like, what is the vision at this point? The vision is use your original software with an emulator. It's like Analog has 4 products now with an FPGA. There's going to be a 5th one next year with the Duo.
Mm-hmm.
They're really ramping up the solutions. And if I buy, I mean, obviously it's hard. I mean, the NT Noir and the Mini NT goes for a ton of money to stop making them. But like, you know, $200 per console for a real FPGA, people have said that that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, and plus, like, I think there's something to be said for having like a nice design form for each of those consoles as well versus like these plug-in. The module thing always was weird to me because it's like, it's not, is it really convenient that to swap out modules? And like, I just would just rather have a separate console at that point. At least I would. Versus popping in modules. I don't know.
I don't think it's a big deal. Whatever.
I think it's an idea past its time though.
Yes.
For sure. So hopefully the backers get this. They've been waiting for, Jesus Christ. Some people have been waiting for 3 years for this thing when they first pre-ordered it. And so again, the first batch is going to, let's see, the first batch isn't everyone who pre-ordered it, but it's like the first, year and a half of people who pre-ordered the thing. So they're going to get them out to the first batch. And then after that, hopefully they can fulfill the rest. You hope, right?
You hope.